So way back in March, as we mentioned in the first hour, Bernard, during the college basketball tournament, our good friend Annie, stopped into the studio. She does often now. She's a great friend of the show. And she was picking like Michigan State or I don't know. We were picking different college basketball teams. And it inspired us, Ann and I, to make a very friendly wager on the election. And Ann, of course, being Donald Trump's number one, I guess, supporter, even more than you. Me not being the case. She went with Trump and I did not. So I lost the bet, obviously. I don't know what the specifics were and what I lost.
Well, let's play the bet. Let's play what you guys bet.
All right, let's do that. And then we'll get to Ann. Let's hear it.
If it is Trump, I say he beats Hillary.
He beats Hillary?
Yeah.
Right.
I do as well. No
and
doubt
it's going to be fun. Okay, so it's just between the two of us on whether Trump gets more of the black vote.
Okay.
That's cash.
That's cash.
The one that Trump beats Hillary.
Okay.
That's dinner.
That's dinner.
500 on the first one.
500. Perfect. So here she is to collect the great Ann Coulter. Good morning, Ann.
Good morning.
And congratulations, Ann Coulter.
Well, I think it's smarter, though I didn't do it in this case. It's smarter to bet against yourself. Then if you lose, at least you made some money. But I was making bets. It really was the only way I was making money this year, making bets.
Well, and I would say in addition to that you're one of Trump's biggest supporters, you were also an inspiration to Trump with your book. I mean, he took a lot of your ideas to heart and put them in his campaign message.
Yes, God bless him on illegal immigration. And that's part of the reason, I say it in my book, Adios America. I always knew it was true, this idea that you suck up to Hispanics by saying we're going to bring in lots more of people who didn't come in legally from the same country you just fled. No, I think Juanita would like a raise. Talk to the maid sometime. I knew this would be popular as a Republican candidate can be with Hispanics, and especially with African Americans whose wages, it's their jobs that are really being depressed by the mass dump of both legal and illegal immigrants on the country. So I was delighted to see that Trump got more of the black vote than Romney, more of the Hispanic vote than Romney, more of the Jewish vote than Romney, and got a majority of at least white women.
So when you look back at this now, I did email you the next day. I
know, it was very gracious. Thank you.
You're welcome. I said the first thing I thought of was my friend Ann, who is so happy and has been behind Trump the whole way. I was happy for. I would imagine anybody who was like a real ardent Hillary supporter or real anti-Ann Coulter, like I did, that emailed or called you, and even though he won, not you necessarily, but congratulated you on the victory.
Yes, in fact, I haven't even responded to them all, but as for that's congratulations generally. As for the Hillary supporters, there were a few. The one I need to track down is the assistant to Bill Koch, whom I made a $5,000 bet with in a bar in Palm Beach that Trump would be the nominee.
Wow.
Only because he was very arrogantly saying, that Trump would never be the nominee. And it was so obvious that he was the odds-on favorite. I mean, you never know what's going to happen, but of all of the 16, 17 candidates, Trump was the most likely to win the nomination. So I made a bet with him on the spot, and there were witnesses, so I am tracking that man down.
So before we ask you, Ann, about the Trump's post-election dignified behavior, his comments on immigration, and the protests, the whiny, bitchy protesters out there, let me ask you a question. How do we know with certainty who vote? They say it was 29% of Hispanics voted for. How do we know it was uneducated, left-handed white chicks who smoke filterless cigarettes? I mean, how do we get into such detail as to who voted for who? How do we know?
That's a really good question. I mean, they have estimates now from exit polls, but obviously the polls were incorrect.
Exactly my point. The polls were wrong going in. They could be wrong coming out.
Right. Well, generally, the census does a very extensive set of interviews. That won't come out until I think it's February the following year. And they're often similar, but there are often some corrections that have to be made. So that's when we'll really know. But they do extensive interviews. It'll take time, in other words. And the other thing you can look at are heavily Hispanic areas and how these counties voted.
All right.
So you can see if that matches the data. So we will have a reasonably good idea. I think you are right to be somewhat skeptical of what they're telling us.
That's
right
me.
now.
That's him. So tell me this before we get to the meat of the potatoes afterwards here. Ann Coulter joining us here on Bernie and Sid. So I'm in Washington, D.C. in a hotel with Danielle Ann Tuesday night, and by 9 o'clock, my stomach's already dropped. I didn't have to wait till 2 in the morning. He was winning every state. I know only 30% were, but he was winning every state. By 10:30, I knew it was over. So I'm pacing in my hotel room, sick as a dog.
No, you're going to have to take me to dinner.
I know. So where were you when this whole thing went down, and about at what point did you go, oh my God, we got this?
It's funny you asked that. I was doing a lot of TV, all foreign TV. I'm blacklisted in America, but I'm the most obvious person to have on TV to discuss Trump. So I was doing lots of BBC and ITV. But as much as I could, I'd return to Command Central and watch what they were saying on TV. But the interesting thing was that night, and I knew about the same time you did, I have the TV on in the background, and I kept checking. The New York Times had a running tally of how, as the votes were coming in. And by about the time you say, at like 9:20, I think they switched from 99% chance, which had been their prediction the day before. I think it was 95% chance Hillary wins. By 9 p.m., it was about 63% chance Trump is the next nominee. By 10 p.m., I think it was 83 or 93%.
It was great.
Meanwhile, the networks were just peevishly refusing to cut.
Right. John King. John King on CNN and doing this math, feverishly figuring out what county can she win to save the state.
No, and it was the only reason the New York Times is accurate, because for those of you who have glanced at the birdcage filler in the past year, they've been hysterically anti-Trump. It's because it was computerized. There was no human involvement. As the votes came in, their little computer system would change what the odds were. And by 10 p.m., like I say, it was 83 or 93%. So it was over. I kept doing these TV interviews, and they pretend like there's still excitement, we're still watching, and I just kept sitting there saying, it's over, Trump won.
It was fantastic. Now, before we go any further, here is Ann Coulter on Bill Maher's HBO show with the panel and the audience stacked against her, essentially like a Jew in a mosque, in the summer of 2015. Listen to this.
Hey, here we are. Ann, which Republican candidate has the best chance of winning the general election?
Of the declared ones right now, Donald Trump.
Wow.
Especially like
What about of all of them? I mean, Scott
fake
Walker?
laughter from the audience.
Who's laughing now, Ann?
Well, the best part was, for a while, immediately after that, there are these things that go around the internet. It's my favorite liberal trope. It was, watch Joy Ann Reid destroy Ann Coulter with a look.
Yeah.
So you can't see her face on radio, unfortunately.
Right, but I did see it myself. I saw the look, and but again, who is laughing now? Ann Coulter is laughing now, all you smug morons out there. And now, Ann, so post-election, Donald Trump, obviously acting measured, presidential, et cetera, and he made some comments about immigration, about immigration. What do you think about that?
What did he say?
He said that he's going to deport the criminals and the aliens,
which is about
build
2-3
a wall,
million, right?
And then we'll take a look at the rest of the people afterward.
Yeah, he's basically said the same thing since day one. He's just added more detail to it. But that Phoenix speech, the famous one when he was allegedly softening, the Phoenix speech gives the list, the order of allowing ICE to do its job. I mean, the media adds all these things that Trump has never said, no one imagines he is saying, that only a psychopath could believe. We don't need some specific deportation force. We have one. It's called ICE. Right now, and actually for both the Bush and the Obama administrations, they've been prohibited from doing their duty. They're just going to be able to actually arrest and deport illegal aliens now. And the order he gave was, number one, convicted felons. Number two, who are illegal aliens. They go first. Number two, any illegal alien who's arrested or in jail. And that's important because it's establishing the principle that, no, you broke into our country illegally. You have no right to demand to stay. So it doesn't matter if you're guilty, as you and your listeners know. Just because you're arrested doesn't mean you're guilty. Just because you're thrown in the hoosegow overnight doesn't mean you're guilty. But, you screwed up. You came into contact for some reason with law enforcement. You're in our custody. We're deporting you. And the third category, which is huge, is illegal aliens collecting government assistance. That's the vast majority of them, far more than Native Americans are collecting, or legal immigrants are collecting government assistance. Illegal aliens are. You know, Paul Ryan, the rest of my ex-Republican Party, they're busy saying we got to cut back on Medicare and Social Security and the social safety net. No, Trump says, I think if we limit it to only Americans, we'll have a lot more money.
He did say that. He also talked about fences last night. Not necessarily walls, but fences, along with the 2-3 million he made deport that are, in fact, felons. But how about the stance he's taking now with the other side? You know, I think everybody for a long time wanted to see this nice Donald Trump, willing to play ball with everybody. And so far the last couple of days, he's made it pretty clear that, at least in my opinion, he's not going to go after Hillary Clinton for what she did with the emails. And on top of that, he meets with Barack Obama and even comes back and says, you know what? There are parts of Obamacare I actually like. So in a couple of days, here he is not bashing Hillary and warming up to Barack Obama. Is this the type of president you think Donald Trump is going to be?
Yeah, no, they've been making these same, I think, false complaints about Trump for the past 16 months on the pre-existing conditions, for example. I think he said that in the very first debate, and they all claimed, in fact, Ted Cruz made a big campaign issue out of it. You see, he wants socialist health care. No, he doesn't. We will have pre-existing conditions. I mean, and by the way, there are two kinds of pre-existing conditions. I think we need to be clear about what he's talking about. I mean, if you're just born with something or something hits you and it's a very expensive condition, under the old insurance system, and it was impossible to get health insurance. Those people are going to be taken care of. If you just don't buy health insurance, well, there will be some system. We're not going to let you die in the street, as he explained in the first debate. But yes, a private insurance market, the free market where you can buy whatever insurance you want. You don't need to tell people selling products to consumers what's popular. They know what's popular. You don't have to have a law saying hotels need to have TVs in there and beds in their hotel rooms. They can figure that out. The market tells them. And covering pre-existing conditions, that's a popular thing to do. And what was the other thing? Hillary. He doesn't have to do anything about Hillary. I do think it would be a horrible mistake for him to pardon Hillary, but he doesn't have to do anything. The FBI is investigating. That'll go to a U.S. attorney or perhaps to a Department of Justice. I mean, I guess if it's Trump's Department of Justice, he may be pushed to appoint a special counsel, but all he has to do is not announce that, which is part of the reason he won, that we are such a corrupt country that if your name is Clinton or you ran for president, you are above the law. Maybe the FBI will find nothing, but they're investigating, and unless Obama pardons her, I don't think he's going to call them off.
No, nor he shouldn't. I mean, that whole meeting on the tarmac between Bill Clinton and Loretta Lynch, he should investigate the investigation at the very least. And
right, but he doesn't really have to do anything. And by the way, it's the same thing with Obamacare. A lot of these Republicans in Congress, and I have little use for most of them, but a lot of them are smart, and there are a lot of smart people, and for years it has been very clear what we need to do with health care in America. You know, the government, one way or another, will take care of people who have, through no fault of their own, just a bad life lottery, big problem. But by and large, for the rest of us, we just want to buy a la carte health insurance. So we're not required, if you just want catastrophic health insurance, right now and under the prior system, we were required by the government to also buy health insurance that covers, gambling addiction, drug addiction, marriage counseling, lots of things that people don't want. That's what made it so expensive. You allow it to be sold on the free market, which Trump has said from the beginning, and which these plans have been worked out. Trump doesn't really have to do anything. He just has to wait for these Republicans in the House and the Senate to come up with a good bill, send it to him, and not veto it.
Right, exactly. Which, by the way, is what Obama did with Obamacare. He let the Congress construct it and send it to him and just signed it. Now, listen, the smug, arrogant, condescending, dishonest media, they who inadvertently helped elect Trump, by the way, they predicted that the Trump supporters will protest and riot, and they were highly offended at the prospect. Of course, we now see the opposite occurring, and yet they cheer them on. They incite them, essentially, is what they're doing. You tweeted out at one point, and it got a lot of attention, that you can't have protests without fat girls, which was hilarious, but...
Yeah. It's just something I've always noticed, and I was looking at these pictures of the protest, and there it was again. Every time I see a protest photo, it's just, these sad, they're upper-middle-class girls. I don't feel that sorry for them. They're going to expensive colleges.
They're eating well.
But they need it's like they need to belong to something. And you will always notice, there are different parts to a protest. There are just, the standard hoodlum, and they'll take advantage of anything. There are some college kids who will just come out because, it's a party.
Right.
But look at all, I was attaching pictures to it. I was looking at the pictures of the protest. We would not have protests without fat girls.
I totally agree. Hey, quickly, we have about 60 seconds to go. Priebus is in. Bannon is in. Conway's going to be in. Are you going to get a gig with Donald Trump? I'm being completely serious. I'm not joking.
Well, I don't know. I've been sleeping since Actually, I've been partying since the election.
Oh, look at you.
Sweet.
Look at you. Huh?
I love the Priebus Bannon combo platter because on one hand, the chief of staff, it sounds very important, but a lot of it is just, it's administrative work.
Right.
Making sure the heat is on, the lights are on, who gets which office. Okay, Priebus is going to do that. Chief strategist Steve Bannon, that's where we want him. We want him bending Trump's ear on what he should be focusing on.
And what about they're trying to do to Bannon what they tried to do to Trump, demonize and caricaturize him? What do you make of that?
Yes, they will with anyone who's worth a damn.
Right, exactly.
So my suggestion is to throw a bunch of them at once. The inclination of most Republicans is to say, we better send some wimp-ass Republican in instead. No. Send them so many they're going to object to that they don't know who to fight.
All right, fair. Now, what do you want to eat? It's in New York, not Los Angeles, so you want...
Correct, and I will be Googling for the most expensive restaurants in New York.
I got a great place. I'm being completely serious. The great actor whose movie and Broadway show is now a musical, Chaz Palminteri. It's called The Bronx Tale. That's the movie and the musical. And he has a great restaurant on 47th and 2nd. And you'll love it there.
Perhaps.
It's your choice, though, Ann.
Yeah, I get that one for free. So
yeah, don't do it, Ann, because he won't have to pay.
That's the scam. Ann Coulter, congratulations, and by the way, thank you for inspiring Mr. Trump.
Yes,
you're
excellent,
fantastic. Enjoy the victory.
Talk to you guys.
Always a pleasure. Ann Coulter on Bernie and Sid. 1-800-848-9222. Back after this.